Captain Jake Morrison walked across the bridge of the UES Horizon. The ship was humanity's newest deep space exploration vessel, built to push the boundaries of how far humans could travel into the unknown. Jake had been in command for 3 years, and in that time, they had discovered 12 new star systems and 3 planets that might support human life someday. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from the navigation systems. Lieutenant Amy Clark sat at her station, monitoring the long-range communications array. She was the ship's xenolinguistics officer, trained to decode any alien signals they might encounter. So far, her job had been mostly theoretical. In all of humanity's travels into space, they had never found proof of intelligent alien life. That changed at 1432. Ship time on a Tuesday afternoon. Amy's console lit up with alerts. She stared at the readouts, her heart racing. Captain Morrison, sir. I'm picking up something unusual on the long-range sensors. Jake turned from the main view screen where he had been studying star charts. What kind of something, Lieutenant? It's a signal, sir. Artificial. Definitely not natural stellar phenomena. Amy's fingers flew over her controls, trying to isolate the transmission. It's coming from outside our mapped space. Way outside. The other bridge crew members looked up from their stations. Commander Ryan Davis, the tactical officer, moved closer to Amy's workstation. How far outside? Amy checked her readings twice before answering. The signal is coming from the Kepler 442 system, sir. That's nearly 1,200 light-years from here. Jake felt his stomach drop. The furthest humanity had ever traveled was about 50 light-years from Earth. Someone or something was sending signals from a distance that seemed impossible to reach. Can you clean up the signal? Working on it, sir. Amy adjusted the filters and boosted the signal strength. Static filled the bridge speakers, but underneath it, they could hear something else. It sounded like a voice, but speaking in a language none of them had ever heard. The voice was desperate. Even without understanding the words, everyone on the bridge could hear the fear and urgency in the transmission. The speaker seemed to be pleading, begging for help. "There's more, Captain," Amy said, her voice tight with concentration. The signal contains mathematical sequences, universal constants. Whoever sent this knew that other intelligent species might receive it. They're trying to prove they're real, not just random noise. Jake activated the ship's intercom. "All senior. Staff to the bridge immediately. This is not a drill." Within minutes, the bridge filled with the Horizon's department heads. Chief Engineer Lisa Parker arrived first, followed by Dr. Kevin Grant, the Chief Medical Officer. Navigator Susan Bell and Lieutenant Commander Paul Stone, the ship's Marine Commander, completed the group. "What's the situation, Captain?" Lisa asked, still wiping grease from her hands after leaving the engine room. "Play it again, Amy," Jake ordered. The alien voice filled the bridge again. The desperation was even more obvious on the second listening. The speaker seemed to be running out of time, their words coming faster and more urgent. "I've been working on the mathematical portions of the signal," Amy explained to the assembled officers. "They're using prime numbers, geometric progressions, and physical constants to establish a baseline for communication. It's brilliant, actually. They're teaching us their language as they speak." Dr. Grant leaned forward. "What are they saying?" Amy hesitated. "I'm still working on the translation, but I think they're asking for help. The word they keep repeating seems to translate to something like dying or ending, and there's another word that appears frequently. I think it means devourers or destroyers." The bridge fell silent except for the static from the speakers. The implications were staggering. Humanity had just received its first contact with an alien species, and that species was apparently facing extinction. Where exactly is this signal coming from? Commander Davis asked. Navigator Bell pulled up a star chart on the main screen. "Kepler 442 is here," she said, pointing to a distant dot. "It's a G-type star similar to our Sun. We know it has at least 2 potentially habitable planets." "Had," Amy corrected quietly. The later parts of the transmission suggest that at least one of their worlds has been destroyed. Jake stared at the star chart. The distance was enormous, far beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Their fastest ships could travel at about 10 times the speed of light. But even at that speed, reaching Kepler 442 would take months. Could we make the journey? He asked Lisa. The chief engineer looked uncomfortable. Theoretically, yes. But we'd be pushing our jump drive beyond its tested limits. The experimental core we're carrying was designed for long-distance travel. But nothing like this. We'd be looking at 18 months each way, assuming everything worked perfectly. And if it didn't work perfectly? Dr. Grant asked. We'd be stranded, Lisa said bluntly. No way home, no way to call for help. We'd be completely on our own. The alien voice continued to broadcast their desperate plea. Amy worked frantically to decode more of the message. Captain, I'm getting more details. The species calling for help isn't just one race. They're calling themselves the Villani Coalition. It sounds like they're a group of different alien species working together. Against what? Paul Stone asked. Something they call the Devourers. From what I can understand, these Devourers are destroying entire planets. They're not just conquering or occupying. They're completely consuming everything, leaving nothing behind. Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He had 200 crew members under his command, all of them skilled professionals who had volunteered for deep space exploration. None of them had signed up for a rescue mission that might be suicide. How long ago was this message sent? He asked. Amy checked her calculations. Given the distance and the speed of light, this transmission is about 4 years old. Whatever was happening to the Villani Coalition, it's been going on for at least that long. They might already be dead, Commander Davis said. They might be, Jake agreed, but they might not be. And if they're still alive, they're facing extinction. The bridge fell quiet again. Everyone understood the situation. Humanity had the technology to possibly reach the Villani Coalition, but it would require risking their only deep space vessel and everyone aboard it. There was no guarantee they could help, no guarantee they would survive the journey, and no guarantee they would ever return home. I need to contact Earth Command, Jake said finally. This decision is too big for one ship captain to make alone. The communication with Earth took 6 hours due to the distance. Admiral Helen Brooks, head of the United Earth Space Command, appeared on the main screen looking tired and concerned. Jake had transmitted all the relevant data, and she had spent hours reviewing it with her staff. Captain Morrison, she said, I'm going to be honest with you. Half my advisors think this is a trap, the other half think it's suicide. But there's one thing everyone agrees on. If this is real, if there's a species out there facing extinction, then we have a moral obligation to try to help. Jake nodded. What are your orders, Admiral? I'm giving you full authority to make the decision. You're the one who would be taking the risk. You're the one who knows your crew and your ship. If you think there's a chance you can help, then you have my blessing to try. But I want you to know that if you do this, you'll be completely on your own. We won't be able to send help if something goes wrong. The transmission ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He looked around the bridge at his senior officers. These were good people, skilled and brave. They deserved to know what they were being asked to do. I'm going to be straight with all of you, he said. This would be the most dangerous mission in human history. We'd be traveling further than any human has ever gone, to help aliens we've never met against an enemy we don't understand. The chances of success are unknown. The chances of survival are unknown. The chances of ever coming home are unknown. He paused, looking each of them in the eye. But there's a species out there that needs help. Maybe several species. And we might be the only ones who can answer their call. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then Commander Davis spoke up. When do we leave, Captain? One by one? The other officers nodded their agreement. Jake felt a surge of pride in his crew. They were willing to risk everything for strangers they had never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. I'll need to ask the entire crew, Jake said. Everyone deserves a choice. The crew meeting was held in the main cargo bay. The only space large enough to hold all 200 people aboard the Horizon. Jake explained the situation, holding nothing back. He told them about the distance, the danger, and the likelihood that they might never return home. When he finished speaking, the cargo bay was silent. Then someone in the back called out, "When do we leave, Captain?" The question was taken up by others. Within minutes, the entire crew was volunteering for the mission. Jake looked out at the faces of his people, feeling a mixture of pride and fear. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before, to help people they had never met, against odds that were impossible to calculate. "All right then," Jake said. "We leave in 6 hours. Everyone prepare for extended deep space travel. We're going to answer that call." The jump to faster-than-light speed felt different this time. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon as the ship's experimental jump drive engaged for the longest journey in human history. The stars outside the viewports stretched into lines of light, then disappeared entirely as the ship entered the strange space between normal reality and the void. Chief Engineer Lisa Parker monitored her instruments with intense focus. The jump drive was running at 90% capacity, far beyond its normal operating parameters. Every system on the ship was being pushed to its limits. "Jump drive is stable, Captain. All systems are green, but I'm seeing stress indicators." "That worry me," Jake nodded. "How long can we maintain this speed?" "If everything goes perfectly, we can make the journey in 18 months. But we're in uncharted territory here. No human ship has ever attempted a journey this long at this speed." Lisa wiped sweat from her forehead. "I'll need to shut down the drive every 2 weeks for maintenance. Each time we do that, we'll drop back to normal space for about 6 hours." The bridge crew settled into their routines, but everyone could feel the tension. They were now further from Earth than any human had ever traveled, and they were still accelerating into the unknown. Lieutenant Amy Clark continued working on the alien transmissions, which had grown weaker as they traveled further from the source. "Captain, I'm making progress on the translation," Amy reported. "The Villani Coalition isn't just 12 different species working together. They're refugees. The transmissions indicate that each species came from a different star system, all fleeing the same enemy." Commander Ryan Davis looked up from his tactical displays. "How many systems are we talking about?" "At least 50, sir. The Devourers have been moving through this region of space for years, consuming entire civilizations. The Villani Coalition represents the survivors of dozens of different worlds." Dr. Kevin Grant, the ship's chief medical officer, joined the conversation. "That explains the desperation in their messages. They're not just fighting for their homes. They're fighting for the survival of multiple species." The first month of the journey passed without major incidents. The crew adapted to the strange sensation of traveling through jump space, where time seemed to move differently and the normal rules of physics didn't apply. Lisa's maintenance schedule kept the jump drive functioning, but each shutdown revealed new stress fractures in the ship's hull and systems. "We're pushing the Horizon harder than she was designed for," Lisa reported during one of their regular senior staff meetings. "The jump drive is holding up, but the hull is showing fatigue. We're going to need more frequent maintenance stops." Jake studied the engineering reports. The ship was literally being stretched by the forces of faster-than-light travel. "How much more frequent?" "Every 10 days instead of every 2 weeks. And we'll need to extend each maintenance period to 8 hours instead of 6. Navigator Susan Bell ran the calculations. "That will add 3 months to our journey time. We're looking at 21 months instead of 18. The news was sobering. They were already committed to the longest journey in human history, and now it was getting longer, but there was no choice. They had to reach the Villani Coalition, and they had to arrive with their ship intact. During the second month, Amy made a breakthrough in her translation work. "Captain, I've decoded more of the Villani transmissions. The good news is that I can now understand about 60% of their language. The bad news is what they're saying." The bridge crew gathered around Amy's workstation as she played the translated messages. The alien voice sounded tired and desperate, but now they could understand the words. This is Guardian of the Last Hope, speaking for the Villani Coalition. We have been in retreat for 47 months. The Devourers have consumed the Keth homeworld, the Zara colonies, and the Moran system. Our combined fleets have been reduced to 47 ships carrying 2 million survivors. The message continued, describing battles fought and lost, worlds consumed, and species driven to extinction. The Villani Coalition had started as a defensive alliance of 12 species. Now they were a collection of refugees with nowhere left to run. There's something else, Captain, Amy said. The Devourers aren't just destroying planets, they're learning. Each battle makes them stronger. They adapt to every weapon, every tactic, every defense. The Villani have been fighting them for almost 4 years, and they're running out of options. Lieutenant Commander Paul Stone, the ship's Marine commander, studied the tactical reports Amy had translated. What kind of weapons are the Villani using? Advanced energy weapons. Particle beams, plasma cannons, fusion missiles. Their technology is significantly more advanced than ours in terms of power generation and energy manipulation? Paul frowned. And these weapons aren't working? They work initially, but the Devourers adapt. Their ships change their hull composition to absorb energy attacks. Their shields adjust to different frequencies. After a few battles, the Villani weapons become useless. The third month brought mechanical problems. The jump drive developed a harmonic resonance that threatened to tear the ship apart. Lisa and her engineering team worked around the clock to solve the problem, installing dampeners and reinforcing critical systems. We're flying a ship that was never designed for this. Kind of stress, Lisa explained to Jake during one of their maintenance stops. Every system is operating beyond its design parameters. The jump drive is holding together, but barely. Jake looked at the damage reports. Hull fractures, system failures, and equipment breakdowns were becoming daily occurrences. Can we make it to Kepler 442? Probably, but I can't guarantee we'll be able to make the return journey. The ship might not survive another 18 months of this kind of travel. The fourth month brought a different kind of challenge. Dr. Grant reported that the crew was showing signs of deep space psychological stress. The combination of being further from home than any human had ever traveled, the uncertainty of their mission, and the constant mechanical problems was taking its toll. We're seeing increased anxiety, depression, and social conflicts, Dr. Grant explained. The crew is holding together, but they're under enormous pressure. Being in jump space for extended periods is affecting their mental health. Jake authorized increased recreational activities and counseling sessions. The ship's small gym became a popular gathering place, and the crew organized movie nights and game tournaments to maintain morale. Amy began teaching basic alien linguistics to anyone who was interested, giving people a sense of connection to the beings they were traveling to help. During the 5th month, they received their first new transmission from the Villani Coalition. The signal was weak and fragmentary, but it was recent. The Coalition was still alive, still fighting, still desperately hoping for help. This is Guardian of the Last Hope. We have retreated to the outer system. The Devourers are strip mining the inner planets. We estimate 6 months before they locate our position. If anyone receives this message, please know that we tried to preserve the knowledge of our civilizations. We have recorded our histories, our art, our science. Perhaps someone will find these records and remember that we existed. The message hit the crew hard. They were still 16 months away from reaching the Villani Coalition, and the aliens were talking about being discovered in 6 months. Jake called another ship-wide meeting in the cargo bay. I know what you're all thinking, he said, looking out at the worried faces of his crew. We might be too late. The Villani Coalition might be gone before we arrive. But we don't know that for certain. And even if we are too late, we'll still have learned valuable information about this enemy. We'll be able to warn Earth and prepare humanity for what might be coming. The crew listened in silence, but Jake could see the determination in their eyes. They had come too far to give up now. The 6th month brought more mechanical failures, but also hope. Amy had fully decoded the Villani language and was now able to translate their technical specifications. The Coalition's ships were impressive, but they all relied on the same basic principles of energy manipulation and defensive shields. The Devourers have been fighting energy-based civilizations for who knows how long, Amy explained during a briefing. They've evolved specifically to counter advanced energy weapons, but they might not be prepared for kinetic weapons. Commander. Davis raised an eyebrow. Kinetic weapons? You mean bullets and missiles? Exactly. The Villani Coalition has never developed kinetic weapons. They went straight from chemical explosives to energy weapons thousands of years ago. But the Devourers have adapted to counter energy attacks. They might be vulnerable to old-fashioned projectile weapons. The idea was revolutionary. Humanity's supposedly primitive weapons might be the key to defeating an enemy that had consumed dozens of civilizations. Paul Stone began reviewing the ship's armament, cataloging every kinetic weapon they carried. We have railguns, missile tubes, and even some chemical explosive devices, he reported. Nothing compared to Villani energy weapons in terms of raw power, but if the Devourers aren't adapted to kinetic attacks, we might have an advantage. As the 7th month began, the crew of the Horizon continued their long journey through the void. The Horizon dropped out of jump space at the edge of the Kepler 442 system after 18 months of travel. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, staring at the main view screen with a mixture of awe and horror. The system looked like a graveyard dot where planets should have been. There were only rings of debris. Massive structures that had once been space stations drifted broken and lifeless. The inner planets had been completely stripped away, leaving nothing but their cores exposed to space. It was destruction on a scale that seemed impossible. "Captain," Navigator Susan Bell called out, her voice tight with shock. "I'm detecting energy signatures throughout the system. Whatever happened here, it was recent." Chief Engineer Lisa Parker worked frantically at her controls. "The jump drive is offline, sir. We pushed it too hard on the final approach. It's going to take at least 6 hours to bring it back online." Jake nodded grimly. They were stranded in this system until the drive could be repaired, but that might be for the best. They needed time to understand what they were facing. "Amy, any signs of the Villani Coalition?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Clark scanned the communication frequencies. "Nothing on the main channel, sir, but wait. She adjusted her controls, boosting the signal strength. "I'm picking up something faint. It's coming from the outer asteroid belt." The signal was weak and intermittent, but it was definitely artificial. Amy worked to clean up the transmission, and slowly a familiar voice emerged from the static. It was the Guardian of the Last Hope, speaking in the Villani language that Amy now understood perfectly. "Any ship receiving this transmission, please respond. We are the last survivors of the Villani Coalition. We have been hiding in the outer system for 3 months. Our supplies are running low. If you are a rescue ship, please identify yourself. If you are the enemy, we will fight until the end." Jake took a deep breath. This was it. Humanity's first contact with an alien species. "Amy, open a channel. Use their language." Amy nodded and activated the transmission system. She had practiced this moment many times during their journey, but her hands still shook as she began to speak in the complex tones of the Villani language. "Guardian of the Last Hope, this is Lieutenant Amy Clark of the human ship Horizon. We received your distress call and traveled 1,200 light-years to reach you. We are here to help." The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Then the Guardian's voice came back, filled with disbelief and desperate hope. "Human ship Horizon? You are not from our region of space. How did you hear our call?" "Your transmission reached our home system. We are a species called humans, and we could not ignore your plea for help. We have come to fight the Devourers alongside you." Another long pause. Then the Guardian's voice returned, stronger now. "You traveled 1,200 light-years to help beings you have never met. This is beyond our understanding. Please, we must meet face to face." The rendezvous took place in the asteroid belt, where the remnants of the Villani coalition had built a hidden base inside a large asteroid. As the horizon approached, Jake could see the extent of their desperation. 47 ships of various sizes and designs were clustered around the asteroid, all showing signs of battle damage and hasty repairs. The coalition ships were beautiful in their own way, with flowing curves and crystalline structures that seemed to capture and reflect light. But they were clearly damaged, with hull breaches sealed by emergency patches and weapon systems that looked depleted. "Captain," Commander Ryan Davis reported from his tactical station, "I'm scanning their ships. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, but they're running on emergency power. Their weapons are nearly depleted, and their shields are operating at minimum strength." The meeting took place aboard the Coalition's command ship, a massive vessel that served as both a warship and a refugee transport. Jake brought Amy as his translator, along with Dr. Kevin Grant, Chief Parker, and Commander Davis. They were the first humans to set foot on an alien ship, but there was no time for ceremony. The Guardian of the Last Hope was not what Jake had expected. The being stood about 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shift color like a mood ring. Its eyes were large and expressive, showing intelligence and deep weariness. When it spoke, its voice was melodic but filled with sadness. "I am called Guardian in your language, though my true name cannot be pronounced by your vocal cords. I speak for the Villani Coalition, or what remains of it. We are the survivors of 12 different species, representing over 40 star systems that once thrived in this region of space." Dr. Grant stepped forward, his medical scanner active. "Guardian, we are honored to meet you. I'm Dr. Kevin Grant, a healer among my people. Are you in need of medical assistance?" The Guardian's skin shifted to a warmer color. "Your concern is appreciated, Dr. Grant. We have wounded, but our immediate need is for hope. We have been fighting the Devourers for 4 years, and we are losing. We estimate that our current supplies will last perhaps 2 more months." Amy translated as the Guardian led them through the ship. They saw beings from 12 different species, all working together, despite their obvious differences. Some were tall and thin like the Guardian, others were short and covered in fur, and still others seemed to be made of living crystal. But all of them shared the same expression of desperate hope when they saw the human visitors. "How many survivors do you have?" Jake asked. 2 million beings across all our ships," the Guardian replied. "We once numbered in the billions across dozens of worlds. The Devourers have consumed everything else." They were led to a central chamber where a holographic display showed the recent battles. The images were horrifying. Massive mechanical ships, each one the size of a city, swarmed around planets and literally ate them. The Devourers moved like a plague of metal locusts, consuming everything in their path. "Tell us about the Devourers," Commander Davis said. "What are we fighting?" The Guardian's skin darkened. "They are ancient beyond measure. We believe they have been consuming civilizations for millions of years. They are not truly alive, but they are intelligent. They learn from every battle, adapt to every weapon, counter every defense." Chief Parker studied the holographic displays. "What kind of weapons have you used against them?" "Everything in our arsenal," the Guardian replied. "Particle beams, plasma cannons, fusion missiles, quantum disruptors. Our most powerful weapons can destroy a moon, but they are useless against the Devourers." "Why?" Jake asked. "Because they adapt. The first time we used particle beams, they were effective. The second time, the Devourers had modified their hull plating to absorb the energy. The third time, they reflected our own weapons back at us. They learn faster than we can develop new weapons." Amy translated the technical specifications, and Chief Parker's eyes widened. "Guardian, all of your weapons are energy-based. Particle beams, plasma, fusion reactions. Have you ever tried kinetic weapons?" The Guardian looked confused. "Kinetic weapons? You mean physical projectiles?" "We abandoned such primitive technology thousands of years ago when we developed energy manipulation." Jake felt a surge of excitement. Guardian, we need to show you something. Our ship carries what you call primitive weapons. Physical projectiles, chemical explosives, kinetic energy weapons. We still use them alongside our more advanced technology. The Guardian's skin shifted to a color that Amy had learned indicated surprise. You still use kinetic weapons? But why? Energy weapons are so much more efficient. Because sometimes the old ways work better, Jake replied. May we demonstrate? The demonstration took place in the asteroid field with both the Horizon and several coalition ships observing. Polestone had set up a target using debris from one of the destroyed planets. The target was made of the same material that the Devourers used for their hull plating. The coalition ships fired first, using their remaining energy weapons. Brilliant beams of light struck the target, but the material absorbed the energy and actually seemed to grow stronger. Then the Horizon fired a single kinetic round from its railgun. The projectile was simple, just a dense metal rod accelerated to incredible speed. It struck the target and punched completely through it, shattering the supposedly impenetrable material. The silence on the communication channels was deafening. Then the Guardian's voice came through, filled with wonder and growing excitement. The projectile penetrated completely. The target material, which absorbs all energy attacks, could not defend against a simple kinetic impact. How is this possible? Jake smiled. Because the Devourers have spent millions of years adapting to energy weapons. They've never encountered a species that still uses kinetic attacks. They're not prepared for bullets and missiles. The implications hit the Coalition immediately. Their enemy, which had seemed invincible, might have a weakness that no one had thought to exploit. The Devourers had adapted to counter every advanced civilization they had encountered, but they had never faced a species that combined advanced technology with primitive weapons. There's more, the Guardian said, its skin now cycling through colors that indicated intense thought. The Devourers follow patterns. They move systematically from system to system, consuming resources and adapting to local defenses, but they have never encountered resistance that they could not eventually overcome. The first joint training session between humans and the Villani Coalition almost ended in disaster. Lieutenant Commander Paul Stone stood in the Coalition's main hangar bay, watching alien warriors practice human combat techniques with weapons they had never seen before. A tall, four-armed being from the Keth species was trying to use a human assault rifle. The weapon looked tiny in his massive hands, but when he pulled the trigger, the recoil sent him stumbling backward into a stack of supply crates. The other alien warriors stopped their practice and stared in confusion. The projectile weapons have significant recoil, the being said in the melodic Villani language. Lieutenant Amy Clark translated for Paul. He says the weapon pushed him when he fired it. Paul nodded patiently. After 2 weeks of training, he was getting used to explaining concepts that seemed basic to humans but were completely foreign to beings who had used energy weapons for thousands of years. That's normal, Paul explained. Energy weapons don't have recoil because they're firing light and particles. Kinetic weapons fire physical objects, so they push back when they fire. You have to brace yourself and expect the kick. The Keth warrior tried again, this time bracing his forearms properly. The rifle fired smoothly and the projectile struck the target with a satisfying impact. The warrior's eyes widened with surprise and delight. It struck the target even though the Devourer shielding was active, he said. The energy shields that stop our weapons do nothing against these projectiles. Captain Jake Morrison watched the training from the observation deck above the hangar. The past 2 weeks had been intense, with human and alien crews working around the clock to prepare for the coming battle. The Devourers had begun expanding their search patterns, and their scouts were getting closer to the Coalition's hiding place every day, Chief. Engineer Lisa Parker approached him with a tablet full of technical readouts. Captain, we've made significant progress integrating human weapons into the Coalition ships. The railgun installations are complete on 12 vessels, and we've mounted missile tubes on 8 more. Jake studied the specifications. The Coalition's ships were larger and more powerful than the Horizon, but their weapon systems had been designed exclusively for energy weapons. Mounting kinetic weapons required extensive modifications. What about ammunition? Jake asked. That's the challenge, sir. We brought enough kinetic rounds for our own weapons, but not enough to supply an entire fleet. The Coalition's fabrication systems can make more projectiles, but they're not used to working with dense metals and chemical explosives. Dr. Kevin Grant joined them on the observation deck. The medical preparations are coming along well. I've been working with the Coalition's healers to understand their biology. It's fascinating, Captain. Each of the 12 species has different medical needs, but they've developed a universal treatment system that works for all of them. Jake watched as human Marines demonstrated close-quarters combat techniques to alien warriors. The aliens were stronger and faster than humans, but they had never learned to fight hand-to-hand. Their entire military tradition was based on ship-to-ship combat with energy weapons. How are they adapting to human tactics? Jake asked. Better than expected, Dr. Grant replied. The Zara species are natural at stealth operations. The Moran have excellent coordination for team tactics. The Keth are perfect for boarding actions because of their size and strength. Each species brings something different to the fight. Commander Ryan Davis climbed the stairs to join them. Captain, we've received new intelligence from the Coalition scouts. The Devourers have begun moving their main fleet toward the outer system. We estimate 4 days before they reach the asteroid belt. The timeline was shorter than they had hoped, but they were as ready as they could be. The combined human coalition force now included 52 ships, all equipped with at least some kinetic weapons. More importantly, they had trained together and learned to fight as a unified force. The Guardian of the Last Hope arrived for the final strategy meeting. The alien leader had spent the past 2 weeks learning human military philosophy, and the experience had changed its perspective on warfare. Your species approaches combat differently than any we have encountered, the Guardian said to Jake. The Villani Coalition has always fought defensively, trying to protect our worlds and people. But humans fight to win, regardless of the cost. Jake considered the observation carefully. We fight to protect what matters to us, Guardian. Sometimes that means taking risks that seem insane to others. Amy translated as the Guardian's skin shifted through several colors. The Guardian says that's exactly what confuses them. You traveled 1,200 light-years to help strangers. You risked your only ship and your entire crew for people you had never met. The Devourers have never encountered that kind of thinking. The final battle plan was simple but audacious. Instead of waiting for the Devourers to find them, the combined fleet would attack the enemy's main base on the 4th planet. The Devourers had been using the planet as a processing center, converting the world's mass into new ships and weapons. The base is heavily defended, the Guardian explained, showing holographic displays of the target. Orbital platforms, defensive, satellites, and at least 30 Devourer ships. It would be suicide to attack directly. Paul Stone smiled grimly. Good thing we're not attacking directly. The human plan called for multiple simultaneous strikes. Fast coalition ships would draw the Devourer fleet away from the planet while human Marines, supported by alien special forces, would assault the base itself. The key was to hit so many targets at once that the Devourers couldn't adapt quickly. Enough to counter them all. The Devourers learn from each battle, Jake explained. But they need time to process new information and develop countermeasures. If we hit them fast and hard with tactics they've never seen before, we might be able to destroy their base before they can adapt. Lisa Parker had worked with Coalition engineers to develop a special surprise for the Devourer base. Human chemical explosives enhanced with alien technology would be planted throughout the facility. When detonated simultaneously, they would destroy the base's power core and cripple the Devourer's ability to create new ships. The explosives use a chemical reaction that the Devourers have never encountered, Lisa explained. Their adaptive systems are designed to counter energy weapons and metal projectiles. They won't know how to respond to controlled chemical explosions. The night before the battle, Jake walked through the Coalition ships, talking with human and alien crew members. The diversity was incredible. Human Marines worked alongside crystalline beings from the Salar species. Coalition pilots studied human flight manuals with Amy's help. Engineers from 6 different species collaborated on last-minute weapon modifications. In the Horizon's mess hall, he found several Coalition warriors sharing a meal with human crew members. Despite the language barriers, they had found ways to communicate through gestures and shared drawings. One of the Velani warriors was teaching a human engineer how to read their flowing script, while a human cook was showing alien visitors how to prepare Earth food. "It's remarkable, isn't it?" Dr. Grant said, joining Jake at the entrance to the mess hall. 3 weeks ago, these species had never heard of humanity. Now they're willing to fight and die alongside us, Jake nodded. And we're willing to do the same for them. That's what the Devourers don't understand. They're machines that consume and adapt. But we're something they've never encountered before, organic beings who choose to help each other. The battle began at dawn, ship time. The combined fleet dropped out of hyperspace in 3 separate groups, appearing simultaneously at different points around the Devourer base. The enemy's response was immediate and devastating. Energy beams lanced out from the orbital platforms, and Devourer ships moved to intercept the attackers, but this time the defenders faced something new. Coalition ships fired kinetic projectiles that punched through energy shields as if they weren't there. Human missiles exploded against Devourer hulls that had never been designed to withstand chemical explosions. The enemy's adaptive systems struggled to process threats they had never encountered. Jake commanded the Horizon in the center group, leading a direct assault on the orbital platforms. "Fire all railguns," he ordered. "Target the platform's weapon." Arrays, the Horizon's kinetic weapons fired in sequence, dense metal projectiles traveling at incredible speeds. The Devourer platform shields absorbed the first few impacts, but the physical projectiles carried too much momentum to be stopped. Hull plates cracked and weapon systems exploded as kinetic energy transferred through the station's structure. Direct hits on all targets, Commander Davis reported. The platform's shields are collapsing, their weapons are offline. Around them, the battle raged with an intensity unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Coalition ships used their advanced sensors and speed to coordinate attacks, while human weapons provided the firepower to actually damage the Devourers. It was a perfect combination of alien technology and human aggression. Paul Stone led the boarding assault on the main base, supported by volunteers from 8 different species. They used Coalition teleportation technology to insert directly into the facility, bypassing the external defenses entirely. The victory celebration was brief. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching as the last of the Devourer ships disappeared into hyperspace. Around them, the debris of the enemy base drifted in slowly expanding clouds. But Jake knew this was only the beginning of a much larger war. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Clark called from her communications station, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading faster than we expected." The main view screen filled with incoming messages. Alien voices speaking in dozens of different languages, all asking the same questions. How had the Velani Coalition survived? How had they defeated the Devourers? What was this new species called humanity that fought alongside them? The Guardian of the Last Hope ship approached the Horizon, requesting a meeting. When the alien leader appeared on the view screen, its skin was cycling through colors that Amy had learned indicated deep thought and concern. "Captain Morrison," the Guardian said, "we have won a great victory, but it has consequences we did not expect. The Devourers have never been defeated before. Their retreat has sent signals across their entire network. Every Devourer fleet in the galaxy now knows about us." Commander Ryan Davis looked up from his tactical displays. "How many fleets are we talking about, Guardian?" "Our long-range sensors are detecting movement in 17 different star systems. The Devourers are gathering their forces. We estimate they will return within 6 months, and when they do, they will bring everything they have." Dr. Kevin Grant frowned. "Can they adapt to our kinetic weapons that quickly?" The Guardian's skin shifted to a darker color. Unknown. The Devourers learn from every battle, but they have never faced weapons like yours before. It may take them longer to develop countermeasures. However, we must assume they will find ways to defend against kinetic attacks eventually. Chief Engineer. Lisa Parker studied the damage reports from their own ships. The battle had been costly. 3 coalition vessels had been destroyed, and many others were badly damaged. The horizon itself had taken hits that would require weeks of repair. Guardian, we need to talk about the bigger picture, Jake said. Our victory here was possible because the Devourers weren't prepared for human tactics. But now they know we exist. They'll be ready for us next time. The Guardian nodded, a gesture it had learned from humans. Which is why we must not fight alone. Captain, your species has done something unprecedented. You have given hope to civilizations that thought they were doomed. Messages are coming in from survivor groups across the galaxy. Species that have been hiding from the Devourers for decades are asking to join our alliance. Over the following weeks, ships began arriving at the Kepler 442 system. First came a small fleet of crystal-based beings called the Quarry, who had been hiding in asteroid fields for 20 years. Then came the Nexus, a species of energy beings who could interface directly with computer systems. Soon, representatives from over 30 different species had gathered to form what would become the Galactic Defense Alliance. Each species brought something unique to the alliance. The Quarry had developed stealth technology that could hide entire fleets from Devourer sensors. The Nexus could hack into enemy computer systems and disrupt their adaptive algorithms. The Thermal, a species of silicon-based life forms, were immune to energy weapons and could operate in environments that would kill organic beings, but it was humanity that provided the military leadership and tactical innovation that held the alliance together. Jake found himself promoted to Admiral of the Allied Fleet, while Paul Stone became the commander of the new Galactic Defense Academy. The academy was established on a captured Devourer space station that had been converted into a training facility. Species from across the galaxy sent their best warriors to learn human combat techniques. The sight of beings from dozens of different worlds working together was something that had never been seen before in galactic history. The key to fighting. The Devourers, Paul explained to a class of mixed alien recruits, is unpredictability. They adapt to patterns, so you can never let them establish a pattern. Change your tactics constantly. Use different weapons. Attack from unexpected directions. Make them think they understand you, then do something completely different. Clark had become the Alliance's chief communications officer, developing new translation protocols that allowed instant communication between all member species. Her work was crucial for coordinating the complex multi-species fleets that were being organized to defend different sectors of the galaxy. The Devourers have divided their forces, she reported during a strategy meeting 6 months after the first victory. They're attacking 12 different systems simultaneously, trying to force us to spread our defenses too thin. Jake studied the tactical displays. The enemy strategy was clever. By attacking multiple targets at once, they hoped to prevent the Alliance from concentrating their forces for another devastating surprise attack. They're learning, he said. But so are we. Guardian, how are the new weapon systems coming along? The Guardian's skin showed pride and excitement. Excellently, Admiral Morrison. We have combined human kinetic weapons with our energy technology. The new hybrid systems fire projectiles that are accelerated by both chemical explosives and energy fields. They hit harder than anything either of our species could create alone. Dr. Grant had been working with medical teams from all Alliance species to develop new field treatment protocols. We've learned to treat injuries for 43 different types of biology, he reported. More importantly, we figured out how to enhance the natural abilities of each species. Keth warriors with human stimulants are incredibly effective in boarding actions. Quarry scouts with Nexus neural interfaces can gather intelligence that was impossible before. The real test came when the Devourers launched their coordinated assault. 17 massive fleets attacked Alliance positions across 12 star systems. simultaneously. It was the largest military operation in galactic history, and the survival of hundreds of species hung in the balance. Jake commanded the defense of the Rigel system from the bridge of the new flagship Unity, a massive vessel built using technology from 8 different species. The ship combined the best of human weapons, Villani energy systems, Quarry stealth technology, and Nexus computer systems. Enemy fleet detected at the edge of the system, reported Commander Davis, who had been promoted to serve as Jake's tactical officer. 47 Devourer ships, including 3 motherships. They're larger than anything we've faced before. The battle that followed lasted 3 days and changed the nature of galactic warfare forever. The Devourers had adapted to kinetic weapons, developing new hull materials that could absorb projectile impacts. But the Alliance had adapted too. Using tactics that no machine could predict, human Marines used Quarry stealth fields to board enemy ships invisibly. Nexus beings hacked into Devourer systems and turned their own weapons against them. Thermal soldiers fought in the vacuum of space where the mechanical beings' systems overheated. Villani energy weapons provided covering fire while human missiles struck from unexpected angles. The key moment came when Jake made a decision that horrified his alien allies, but proved devastatingly effective. Instead of trying to destroy the Devourer motherships, he ordered the Unity to ram one of them directly. "Admiral, that's suicide," the Guardian protested over the communication system. "No, it's human," Jake replied. "The Devourers think logically. They would never sacrifice a flagship to destroy an enemy vessel because it's not efficient. They can't adapt to tactics that make no logical sense." The Unity's shields held just long enough for the collision. The massive Alliance flagship punched through the Devourer mothership's hull and detonated its entire arsenal inside the enemy vessel. Both ships were destroyed, but the explosion created an electromagnetic pulse that disabled half the Devourer fleet. The remaining Alliance ships finished off the confused and damaged enemy vessels, winning the most decisive victory in the war so far. But the cost was high. Jake Morrison and 80% of the Unity's crew died in the collision, sacrificing themselves to save billions of beings across the galaxy. The funeral was attended by representatives from over 100 species. Jake was buried on Earth, but monuments to his sacrifice were erected on worlds across the galaxy. He had become a symbol of humanity's willingness to fight impossible odds for others. Amy Clark, now Admiral Clark, took command of the Galactic Defense Alliance. Under her leadership, the Alliance grew to include over 300 species, all working together to defend against Devourer attacks and to rebuild the civilizations that had been destroyed. The Devourers continued to attack for another 5 years, but they never again achieved the devastating victories of their earlier campaigns. Human tactics had taught the galaxy how to fight back, and each battle made the Alliance stronger while making the ancient enemy weaker. The final Devourer fleet was destroyed in the Andromeda approach, a battle where over 1,000 Alliance ships from 200 species fought together as one unified force. When the last enemy vessel was destroyed, the galaxy fell silent for a moment before erupting in celebration that could be heard across 1,000,000 worlds.